What's poppin', YouTube? YouTube members of the Sugar Fam who are really just members of this Sugar Fam who are here. We're going to be doing a live reading of the story that we wrote in Discord. Basically, what we did was I started with a line, and then everybody in the fam wrote a subsequent line. And so we made this whole story. This was the test story, and the first one that we did was a very interesting one. Trying to keep everything on track, but I think it came out pretty good. Pretty good. So, without further ado, let's get it started. Everybody's hype. Woo! Mom, I'm on TV! I told you I would do it! Alrighty. Without further ado, let's get this going. And also, we have the chat. Twitch chat right there. That's hype. You want to say hi to yourself in the future. So, without further ado, let's get this story started. One day there was a young knight, clad in silver, who was walking through an apple orchard trying to find the perfect one to satisfy his hunger, when suddenly, a dragon appeared that was 50 feet tall. The young knight left his sword at home, not thinking he would run into danger. He suddenly ran away from the dragon and tripped on a pear. Enraged by the fact that the pear was in the orchard, he throws the pear-like pommel against the dragon and ended the dragon rightly. As it turns out, the pear and the dragon were the best of friends, and the pear wept silently at the accidental slaying of its dear friend. While our young knight continued on, not knowing what to expect, the pear suddenly transformed into a fierce giant pear. Brandishing its fruity claws, it struck at the knight, who didn't know his Wi-Fi was too expensive for his little cave. Turning his mind away from the bills and financial issues which weighed heavy on his mind, he realized his armor had been sliced with a slimy, pulpy residue, prompting him to go to the laundromat. But it would be difficult to wash metal armor, as it would be too expensive. Unless there was some sort of chemical that could clean anything. Fortunately, in the middle of the medieval strip mall, there was also an Ace Hardware, where he purchased a bottle of hydrochloric acid. DTS question. After which, the illusory magic of the dire pear wore off, and the strip mall dissolved into nothing, leaving him still stained and out of a bottle of acid. Dire pears every time. I'm loving this story. Oh, I like your confidence, Nummy. Future Nummy, I love you. And I love you, future fam. And Wally. But he was out of a bottle of acid. But he did find out the mighty king was stalked by that dragon, so he asked for help. Suddenly, the dire pear draws near, and the knight must think of a plan, and draws out a deck of cards and shouts, "I summon my blue eyes white dragon." What happened next is the pear laughed pearily and slapped the deck of cards out of the knight's hand. His letter to the mighty king just sent out via horse. Ace Hardware. Which arrived just in the nick of time and prompted the king to send out the mightiest of his tomato army to take on the blue eyes white dragon and the dire pear, as there was an intense hatred between the king and the dragon due to an unfortunate incident that required a doctor's visit and skin creams that seemed to be everlasting. But no one knew this because why would anybody want to share such an embarrassing situation? Knowing the word is out, all shame was cast aside. The king took ownership of this condition and ordered the Tomato Army's special Splat Brigade to make sauce out of the dragon. An interesting strategy of war, although hasty, because the dragon's secret defense was secretly that the dragon was the dragon was comprised entirely of salt. Upon the Splat Brigade finding this out, they went to protest against turning the dragon into sauce, as it would be too salty to consume and therefore a waste of resources. To which the king replied, provides kingly accent for whatever is stated next. Let's see, we're all talking to each other. Italics, tick. The dragon may be made of salt, but if we get enough ground beef and some mushrooms, We may be able to make a hearty meal for the kingdom, the king bellowed with a full-bellied laugh. Lol. Not the salt! Salt! Little did the king know, the king's cook was absolutely horrible at his job, and therefore was about to start a war between kingdoms, all because of the vile taste of his meals. What an awful chef. After a while, the king receives a message from one of his soldiers. The soldier said the king's... Wait, hold on. After a while, the king receives a message from one of his soldiers. The soldier said the kingdoms of Shu, Wei, and Wu declared war and preparing to march, and the soldier continued. This will be a war of dynasties. Mario dueling the story. But the king was still afraid to die, who knew that the dragon wasn't like Muhammad Ali. However, the dragon did float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. The tomato army was sent out by the king and easily slayed the 3 dynasties. But the last frontier was the Pear and the Blue Eyes White Dragon, who had allied together for the previously slain dragon, had happened to be his brother. Who had, let me reread that with the right context. Who had allied together for the previously slain dragon, had happened to be his brother. The tomato army marched forward until they unknowingly arrived at the Sea of Time. As they stepped onto the glowing wet sand, a shining crystal boat appeared out of the shimmering mist, softly swaying upon the gentle, licking waves that sparkled beneath the silvery moonlight, to carry the tomato army across the water to the beautiful palace of apples. The original orchard had bloomed into a beautiful palace, where the dragon and Pear had shared many a fine drink and tales. The tomato army slowly advanced towards the apple palace. Most F-pods. We'll probably do another one for Community Appreciation Day. Very fruity indeed. Gasp! When on their journey, the tomato army encountered a horde of wild oranges. Oranges were always considered rogues and rebels, always causing trouble and confusing others with their magical colors. The tomato army reacted by calling for help as they get cut down by the enemy. Lu Bu, the mightiest warrior of the 3 kingdoms, cuts away through over 1,000 oranges over the battlefield, and Lu Bu's forces standing in front of the throne room where the Pear has sealed the Blue Eyes White Dragon. After a long fight with all tomatoes defeated, with all tomatoes defeated, and with a ketchup-soaked ground, Lu Bu stands before the Pear. And with the final attack of Lu Bu, the Pear clashing together, Lu Bu stands victorious, and the Pear is cut in half. Lu Bu says, "Is there nobody left to fight me? Is this the end? No! Come and face me! Face the great Lu Bu!" After that, the Blue Eyes Dragon got released, and the dragon, with a thankful look, flew away, back to the Valley of Dragons. The end. My goodness. What a terrific story, with M. Night Shyamalan-like twists and turns. Very fruity.